How's it going, my peeps? It is now time for the RAW results / highlights and review video. I'll go over the results, some of the highlights in my opinion, and give you guys my thoughts, my review on the show. So it kicks off with a replay or a video package of the announcement last week for the Fatal 4-Way at Battleground involving John Cena, Roman Reigns, Kane, and Randy. And then Raw kicks off with Roman Reigns coming out, and he cuts a promo on how the Authority, they say that they put him in the Fatal 4-Way because it's best for business. But, they probably think that Roman Reigns can be in that match so that he can neutralize John Cena. Reigns says he can. And then he says they also probably think that Kane can neutralize me. He can't. And then he goes over Randy. He says, and then after all of that, Randy walks out as the champion. He says he won't. And then the crowd is chanting, Cena sucks. And so Roman Reigns says, when Roman Reigns is in the house, you're damn right Cena sucks. And then the crowd pops to that. And pretty much Reigns afterwards says that you are looking at the next WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And then Kane's pyros go off. He comes out on the stage without a microphone or anything. It just stares down Roman Reigns. And Reigns calls Kane Randy's bitch. So then Kane heads to the ring, or towards it at least, because he doesn't actually get to the ring before Reigns gets out of the ring himself and meets him on the ramp. So they fight it out at ringside. Reigns clotheslines Kane over the barricade. They fight it out in the crowd. Kane gets the upper hand, and then he grabs Reigns and throws him over the barricade back at ringside, and then puts him back in the ring, and he starts stomping on Reigns until referees, a bunch of referees, like, I don't know, 6 of them or something like that, they get in the ring trying to separate them. Kane actually chokeslams one of the referees, and that allows Reigns to get up. And once Reigns is up, he takes down Kane. Kane rolls out of the ring, and then some agents also come down the ring to separate them. There was Finlay there and Jamie Noble. They grab Reigns or, keep him in the corner. But, meanwhile, the referees are keeping Kane, I guess, out of the ring. He's on the outside. And Reigns pushes Jamie Noble out of his way, and then he spears Finlay. And Kane gets on the apron, but he gets Superman punched by Reigns. And then Reigns' music hits, and that's it for that segment. Following that, it was a tag team match, the Usos versus Luke Harper and Erick Rowan. And despite, a few instances in the matchup where it looked a bit sloppy, there was some slight botches there, it was still a great match between the two. And in the end of the match, you had Jey Uso, I think it was, or was it Jey Uso? No, I think it was Jimmy Uso. I don't know. One of the Usos was on the turnbuckle, and Erick Rowan and the other Uso were fighting it out on the outside, and they were on the complete other side of the ring. And then all of a sudden, when the legal Uso is in the ring on the top turnbuckle, they decide to run towards him, all the way towards him, and accidentally bump into him, or Erick Rowan kind of bumps into the ropes. And that causes, the Uso on the top turnbuckle to kind of, lose a little bit of balance, but not enough to get off the top turnbuckle or fall off of it. And then Luke Harper takes him off and hits him with a sit-down powerbomb, and at that point actually thought that it was going to be over, but the other Uso comes in for the save, and then they take out Luke Harper out of the ring. They try and go for a double, over the top rope move on Luke Harper, but Erick Rowan grabs Jimmy Uso as both Usos were bouncing off the ropes, and he drags him out of the ring, and then Jey Uso drop kicks Erick Rowan, but then when he turns around, Luke Harper is back in the ring, and he hits him with a discus clothesline, covers him, gets the 3 count, and the victory. And then after the match, Jimmy Uso gets back in the ring, and he tells the referee, I was the legal man. Jey Uso was the legal man, and Luke Harper pinned Jey Uso for the win. And then we see Kane and Randy backstage, and Randy's telling him if Roman Reigns, if he had done anything else to you, just one more thing, he would have been out there. Randy would have been out there in a snap. And then he tells Kane that he has his back, just like Kane will have his back at Battleground. And then Kane tells Randy, you're right, whatever happens at Battleground, the championship, the WWE World Heavyweight title, is coming back to the Authority one way or another. And then Seth Rollins comes up to them with the briefcase, and he tells them with the Authority not being here tonight, they've got to make sure that they're on the same page, and he assures them that if either one of them wins the championship at Battleground, that he's going to think twice about it before cashing in the briefcase. And then he laughs and leaves, and then Randy tells Kane he's really starting to hate that kid, and then Kane tells Randy, not as much as I'm starting to hate you, and then he leaves. Afterwards, it was Nikki Bella versus Alicia Fox in a one arm tied behind their back match. So Nikki Bella got her arm tied behind her back first, and then the referee tried to do it for Alicia Fox, but Alicia Fox was like playing around, and she was messing around with the referee, not letting him tie one of her hands behind her back. Eventually, she just takes the rope off and she attacks Nikki Bella while she has one of her hands tied behind her back. And at some point, Nikki Bella slaps Alicia Fox, but in the end, Alicia Fox stands tall while Nikki Bella, has one of her arms once again tied behind her back. So, another case of, the Authority stacking the deck against Nikki Bella. And after that, it was Rusev versus Rob Van Dam. Now, before Lana could speak really and talk too much, Rob Van Dam interrupted her. And this wasn't like, one of the quick squash matches that Rusev has on Raw. It was actually more so like the Rusev versus Big E match, just in terms of length, not in terms of, match style, of course. Rob Van Dam actually got some of his signature moves in, like the sidekick from the top turnbuckle. He did DDT on Rusev. He got some offense in, bottom line. But in the end, when he tried to go for the Rolling Thunder, Rusev got out of the way. RVD landed on his feet. Once he turned around, Rusev kicked him, or hit him with a super kick. And then he followed that up with the Accolade. And Rob Van Dam taps out, giving Rusev his biggest victory yet, seeing as how Rob Van Dam is a former WWE champion. So after that, Randy took on Ambrose in a rematch from SmackDown, and this match, towards the end, Dean Ambrose just snapped and he kept throwing steel chairs inside the ring. And then he threw Randy in the ring, got in the ring himself, but then Randy rolled out the ring, so Ambrose follows him. Referee in the meanwhile takes out all the chairs from the ring. And then Randy grabs Ambrose on the outside, and he shoves him shoulder first onto the steel post. And then he hits him with a DDT from the barricade onto the floor, gets back in the ring, and referee starts counting out Ambrose. And at the count of 9, or at like 9.5, Ambrose gets back in the ring at the very, very last second. And in the ring, Randy goes for another DDT, this time in between the ropes. Ambrose counters it into a roll-up. Randy gets out of it, or kicks out of it, and then goes for an RKO, but Ambrose counters the RKO into a backslide. Randy kicks out once again. He hits a big boot on Ambrose. Ambrose bounces off the ropes to hit that, clothesline, but once he bounces off the ropes, he gets hit with an RKO. Randy covers him and wins the match. After that, Renee Young interviews John Cena about, the target on his back, with, Seth Rollins, with him facing off against Seth Rollins tonight, and Seth Rollins having the briefcase. John Cena says that, since he is the champion, he's got these 2 gold championships, he is the biggest target in the WWE, and eventually Roman Reigns interrupts him, and he wishes him luck against his match, or in his match against Seth Rollins tonight. John Cena tells him he doesn't need luck, and then Reigns tells him he'll need a lot of it when he faces off against him in the Fatal 4-Way at Battleground. And then they have a number 1 contenders match between Dolph Ziggler and Del Rio. The winner gets to challenge Sheamus for the United States Championship on main events. Although Del Rio already got a shot at the championship on SmackDown, which he lost. But anyways, Fandango was on commentary, and on commentary they were asking him if he was jealous on what happened last week with Dolph, where Summer Rae kissed him, and he says no. He says it doesn't affect him, he doesn't care. And anyways, towards the end, Dolph hits the Faymacer on Del Rio. Del Rio kicks out at 2, and then Fandango decides to get on the announcer's table to distract Dolph, and his music hits, and he starts dancing on the announcer's table while JBL isn't really liking it. And then That distraction allows Del Rio to hit the super kick on Dolph, cover him, and win the match. So that means Del Rio is the new number center for Sheamus' US Championship. And then after the match, Fandango's music hits once again, and Fandango keeps on dancing on the announcer's table. And JBL keeps saying, go to commercial, go to commercial. And the crowd was also, singing along or, doing the, I guess it's still called fandangoing. Yeah, they were fandangoing with Fandango. And then backstage, Layla's word, she's asking Fandango if, why did he distract Dolph out there? Was he actually jealous that, Summer Rae kissed Dolph? And he tells her no, it's just that, Dolph Ziggler disrespected him, or actually embarrassed him last week when, he did what he did. And he assures Layla that, he loves Layla. And then he hugs Layla, and what Layla doesn't see is, on the other end, Summer Rae is, looking at Fandango. And then she walks away. And after that, Jerry the King Lawler introduced Bret Hart to Big Pop. And Bret Hart talked about how Montreal is one of his favorite places, and if he were to lace up his boots one more time and have one more match, he would want it in Montreal in front of the greatest fans in the world. They cheer for that. And then he gets interrupted by his own music. It hits once again, but this time you have Damien Sandow coming out dressed as Bret Hart, and he mocks Bret Hart and says, it's a shame that in this, throughout Bret's entire career, he's never stood in the same ring as the greatest superstar of all time, Damien Sandow. And he keeps on mocking him, making fun of him, and then towards the end, he says, saying to Bret Hart, he says, I know talking has never been your strong suit, but, and then he gets punched by Bret Hart, and then Bret Hart says, no, punching was always my strong suit. And then Bret's music hits, and that's it. And then actually Sheamus' music hits. Sheamus comes out, and he's up next in a match against Damien Sandow, or should I say Bret the Hitman Sandhart. And Sheamus wins the match. Obviously, Sandow wasn't going to beat Sheamus, especially when he's, going to be taking on Del Rio on main event. So, yeah, towards the end, Sandow hits an elbow drop just like Bret did from the second rope, except he did the taunt, or, the taunt he does before his elbow of disdain. And afterwards, he went for the sharpshooter, but Sheamus countered it by grabbing Sandow by the beard, and then Sheamus hit him with the, what's it called again? The freaking, I'm forgetting what the name is. But the move basically where Sheamus puts him, on the apron, hanging against the apron, and, delivers, 10 punches. After that, he hits the bro kick on Sandow, covers him, and wins the match. So after that, Renee Young interviews The Miz, because he's in a match against Chris Jericho, and he reads a letter from a fan called Johnny Russo, and basically it says that they were happy, or the fan was happy that The Miz was the one returning last week, but when Chris Jericho hit him with the codebreaker, he died a little inside, and The Miz tells Renee Young that he gets letters like this all the time, and that, Chris Jericho, what he did last week, he could have ruined the face, the moneymaker, and then he tells, I guess, Johnny Russo that, not to worry because he's going to take care of Chris Jericho. Then after that, they have the match, and throughout the match, The Miz was avoiding any contact to his face, any punch or anything like that. And, in the very beginning of the match, Chris Jericho was bleeding from his ear. I'm not sure why or how or from what move, but for the entire match, he was bleeding from the ear. And anyways, towards the end, Chris Jericho, The Miz charges Chris Jericho after locking on the figure 4, and Chris Jericho getting to the ropes. Miz goes after Jericho. Jericho hits him with a punch to the face. I think that was the first punch to the face in the match. So then The Miz really sells that punch and holds his nose and, worried that, he broke his nose or something like that. So then Chris Jericho capitalizes on that by following it up with the Walls of Jericho. Not the Lion Tamer, it was the walls of Jericho, basically the Boston Crab version, not the Lion Tamer version. And The Miz taps out, so Jericho wins. And then lights go out. Bray Wyatt is on the stage, and he cuts a promo on Jericho. You know, he mocks Jericho's whole save us thing, telling Chris Jericho, oh, Chris Jericho's here to save us. And then he tells Jericho, how do you plan on saving these people when you can't even save yourself? And then he goes on to talk about Jericho some more until Jericho interrupts him and tells him to please shut the hell up. And then he tells Bray Wyatt that since Bray Wyatt is alone, because Bray Wyatt at that time, he was on his own, on the rocking chair, he wasn't with Luke Harper and Erick Rowan, or maybe he was, but the lights were out, so you couldn't see them if they were there. And Jericho says that he's going to go out there, or go up to Bray Wyatt right now and kick his ass. So he gets out of the ring and heads towards Bray Wyatt, but then lights go out once again, or the Wyatt family signal goes out, and then Luke Harper and Erick Rowan are now next to Bray Wyatt. So Jericho stops in his tracks, and they have like a stare down with Jericho on the bottom of the ramp, and Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family on the stage. And then that was it for that segment. After that, it was a tag team match. Cameron and Naomi, the Funkadactyls, versus Paige and AJ. And Paige was like sucking up to AJ, or she introduced AJ as her tag team partner when AJ was coming out, making her entrance. And there was no there wasn't any betrayal in the match as far as like the AJ and Paige team. Paige didn't attack AJ or anything like that. And instead, Naomi and Cameron were having some problems where Cameron didn't want to tag in, or when Naomi was trying to tag her in, she wouldn't tag in. At first she was like yawning on the apron, and then at some point she was actually putting lip gloss on. She didn't seem too interested until the very end of the match, where she tagged herself in and then went for a DDT or something, but Paige turned it into the Paige Turner, covers her, and Paige and AJ win the match. And then Paige and AJ leave, and Cameron and Naomi, they start arguing inside the ring. They push each other. Cameron pushes Naomi's forehead a bunch of times, and then Cameron pushes her again, and then, Naomi pushes her back, and then Cameron jumps on Naomi. Naomi gets the better of her, and she gets a couple punches in. They start, fighting, and referee separates them, and they keep fighting a little bit on the outside until Cameron just leaves, and that was it for their fight. And then we get Kofi Kingston versus Cesaro. Before the match, Paul Heyman addresses the crowd, and he also points out, of course, that Brock broke the streak, and he's talking, of course, English. So then Cesaro tells him that, he can't speak English to these people, to these French Canadians, and then he makes fun of the crowd, saying they don't even speak actually real French, they speak Quebecois, and that the French don't like them. And he then speaks a bit of French and says that the crowd is pourri. And then after that, Kofi Kingston comes out with his ribs taped up from the attack last week. And just like last week, Kofi gets the win with a surprise roll-up. And then after the match, Cesaro attacks him once again. He grabs him and throws him shoulder first onto the steel post. But then Big E comes out for the save. He clotheslines he clotheslines Cesaro out of the ring and challenges him to come back in the ring to fight. But Cesaro decides not to. And then after that, we get a backstage segment with Seth Rollins and John Cena. It was pretty much Seth Rollins teasing Cena that, he might cash in tonight if he beats Cena, or if Cena maybe gets hurt or something like that. Following that, it was Bo Dallas versus El Torito because of what happened on SmackDown, with Bo Dallas hitting him with a military press slam. And before the match, Bo Dallas goes over how he's gonna, take on any challenge because he believes. And Bo Dallas wins the match when he's on the outside, and, one of the Lost Matadors, there was only one of them, because I think the other one is injured. He was cheering on El Torito, who's in the ring, and Bo Dallas is right next to that Lost Matadores. So he pushes him onto the steel steps, and then El Torito goes for like a some sort of move from inside the ring to the outside, but Bo Dallas catches him with a punch, and then he goes back in the ring, and he hits the Bulldog, covers him, and wins the match. After the match, this is the funny part. Funniest part in the match is when Bo Dallas gets his, does his victory lap around the ring, he freaking bumps into El Torito and takes him down while doing his victory lap, which I thought was pretty funny. So following that, it was the main event, Seth Rollins versus John Cena. Towards the end of the match, Cena goes for the AA on Seth Rollins. Rollins front flips out of it, but then shortly after, Cena locks on the STF, but they're like pretty close to the ropes, so Seth Rollins is almost about to touch the rope, so Cena sees that, so he pulls him back like in the middle of the ring, locks it on once again, but this time we see like the camera pans to the stage, the Titantron area, and you can kind of figure out that somebody's going to come out, because why would the camera go to, point to that direction all of a sudden? And then, I'd say a second afterwards or so, the pyros go off, Kane's music hits, he's heading down towards the ring, and from behind, Randy attacks John Cena, so Randy's in the ring, he's attacking him, and then Kane gets in the ring as well, they're both attacking Cena, and you could pretty much at this point expect that Reigns is going to come out. So yeah, Reigns' music hits, he comes out too, and Kane gets out of the ring to meet Reigns, but Reigns hits him with a Superman punch. And then he goes inside the ring, Randy goes for a clothesline, Reigns ducks it, bounces off the ropes, comes back with a Superman punch for Randy as well, and then he's I guess posing, and then Seth Rollins comes from behind and hits him with the briefcase to the back of the head, and then he also hits Cena with the briefcase. And then he realizes he's got, Cena down, so he's calling for a referee comes down the ramp, and he gets out of the ring with the briefcase along with the referee. He gives the briefcase to the referee so he can cash it in, but before before the referee makes it official, rings the bell, Dean Ambrose attacks Seth Rollins, and he chases him out of there, and then after that, we get Randy getting back in the ring. He tries to go for an RKO on Cena. Cena counters it into an attitude adjustment, hits it on Randy. Once he turns around, Kane is back in the ring. Kane goes for a chokeslam on Cena, but Reigns hits a spear on Kane before Kane could chokeslam Cena. And then it's down to Reigns and Cena in the ring, and they just look at each other. They have a stare down, and then Reigns raises Cena's arm. I'm not sure if he was doing it mockingly or not, but he raises Cena's arm, and the crowd boos that. And then Cena raises Reigns' arm, and then Reigns raises Cena's arm, and then the show closes out. But as it closes out, you see Cena this time raising Reigns' arm. So that concludes the show. What did I think about tonight's show? Highlights. Highlights for me: Bo Dallas doing the victory lap and knocking over El Torito. That was the funniest part of the show. And also, Fandango dancing on the announcer's table. Just the way he was dancing on the table there. He's all serious dancing. He's taking his dancing seriously. And JB out there, just telling them to go to commercial. I know those are two silly highlights, but for me, they were highlights of the show. Two pretty funny moments. As far as highlights, when it comes to matches, actual matches, I'd say the Usos versus Luke Harper and Erick Rowan. That was a good match. Now, one segment I didn't really enjoy, actually I did not enjoy at all, and I thought was it just was anticlimactic. I don't know. It's the Alicia Fox and Nikki Bella segments. That was supposed to be a match, but Alicia Fox attacks Nikki Bella or whatever. It was just boring for a segment. It wasn't even, that vicious of an attack on Nikki Bella, because Nikki Bella was still, she wasn't standing up, but she was still sitting down after the assault from Alicia Fox. I think maybe they could have made another segment where, Nikki Bella is at a disadvantage, or, because she no longer has Brie Bella there too. But the whole thing with Alicia Fox attacking her, and then even at the end of the segment, Nikki Bella is still, she isn't knocked out or anything. I don't know. I just didn't like that segment. And on a positive note, I did like the opening of the show because it was something different. It just seems like for the past couple of months. For a while now, it seemed like every single week the Authority would kick off the show, or whoever was feuding with the Authority. I mean, Reigns is somewhat feuding with the Authority, but we haven't seen Reigns open up the show in a while. And I like just the the brawl between Reigns and Kane at the beginning of the show. Also, it seems like now they're going with a Cesaro versus Big E feud, or at least until, the Battle Royal at Battleground, seeing as how Cesaro is in that match. So I don't think he's going to be in a one-on-one match also with Big E on the show. And also with these recent losses to Kofi on Raw, it leads me to believe that we might see Cesaro capture the championship, the IC championship, at in that Battle Royal. Anyways, that's pretty much it. That's about all I've got to say. Oh yeah, my rating for tonight's show. I would give, oh yeah, and by the way, I'd say Bret Hart tonight definitely had the biggest pop of the night, especially when at the beginning of the show, when they announced that Bret Hart would be appearing, that got a really big pop, and he also got a big pop, when he appeared and punched Damien Sandow. I'd say that Bret Hart actually got the biggest pop out of anybody else. Anyways, for my rating for tonight's show, I would give it a 7.5 to 8 on 10. Somewhere around those lines. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, as always, can click that like button down below. I'd really appreciate it, and with that said, I'm out, guys. See ya.